A new survey published this afternoon has shown the impact that England's winner this year's Euros has had on the sporting aspirations of girls in the UK. The report conducted by Women in Sport has shown there's a huge increase in the number who now dream of reaching the top of the game. Well, the sample of 13 to 24-year-olds showed that for girls who already love playing sport, the number that now dream of going all the way to the top of the game is now 70%. That's up from 50% in the same category just 2 years ago. The results found that the Women's Euros really resonated with girls. England celebrated their first ever major tournament back in July, and the players, their attitudes and spirits in which they approached the competition were aspirational and provided something powerful for girls to look up to and, importantly, to emulate. Well, this survey was done in August, and 72% of girls who watched or attended a game during the tournament said it made them want to play more sport and be active.
The Lionesses have created this huge transformation. Now those girls who are really keen on sport and do loads of sport are dreaming at almost the same rate as the boys. It's amazing. That's the good news.
I mean, you've got to see it to be it, right? So visibility is surely central to that.
I think the joy and the freedom of expression and the teamwork and the brilliance of those women in the Lionesses was a particular moment. Yes, you have to see it to believe it, but I think there's a whole generations of women who never saw women's team sport in the spotlight ever. So they saw, great tennis players and athletics. They never saw women's team sport. So you're right. It's not just seeing believe it. I think it's also wanting to feel that excitement and joy that has transformed attitudes.
While the success of the Euros clearly had an impact on girls already playing sport, the overall picture is less positive. The survey found a huge gender gap remains when it comes to participation in enjoyable sport and activity in the first place. 67% of girls would like to do more sport, but say they lack the opportunities or encouragement and have started to participate less. After winning the Euros, the England squad wrote a letter to the government to call for all girls to be allowed to play football at school.
I think for the England team, especially as soon as we won the Euros, our thought was, what's next? What can we do to help more young girls and boys get involved in sport, and how can we help best we can? And that is why we wrote a letter to make sure that football is offered in all schools. And I think for us, it's just the start of the journey, and we want to keep doing as much as we can, using our platforms as much as we can to really grow the game and to give everyone that equal opportunity.
21% of girls say that they do lots of sport and activity, but for boys that number's almost double at 39%. And 40% of girls feel women's sport is still viewed as of a lower value than men's sport, and that girls are not expected to be good at sport. One answer given was, "I watch football with my dad and he doesn't like women's football."
There's a long way to go for it to improve that, but the more we see, women's football games on the TV, the more attitudes will eventually change, and hopefully then for younger girls growing up, then they don't really see that difference. It's just that there's women's football and there's men's football, and they're both on an equal playing field.
Social media especially, you do still see the old attitudes, but I think they are gradually changing. So I think just with time and more presence of women's sport and mainstream media, that will change, and I think that will go alongside girls dropping out. Maybe when those attitudes do change and they see women's football or women's sport in general being more valued, dropouts might not be so high.
However, attitudes are beginning to shift. More boys, particularly teenage boys, are starting to recognise the injustice within sport and are keen to see women's sport flourish. 42% of boys want to see women's sport given more support, an increase of 10% compared to 2 years ago, while 70% of girls would like to see equal media coverage of men's and women's sport. That will be helped by the Sky Sports deal announced yesterday to show the Scottish Women's Premier League for the first time.
Yeah, it's really important. We've seen it this summer with the Euro down in England, the impact that's had on the number of girls that want to play football. But we've also seen it here in Scotland when the national team qualified for the World Cup. We saw the biggest ever uplift in the recreational player and girls taking part in football for the first time. So we know that visibility is really important. And again, that's why this partnership is particularly important for Scottish football at the moment.